All right. I now call the Des Moines City Council regular meeting for Thursday, August 4th to order. And with that, I will be leading the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Let the record reflect that there are all 7 council members are present. And before we go into the public comment section, I know many of you guys are here concerning the Masonic retirement home. And there may have been some misinformation about how best to address that issue. With that, I'm going to turn it over to the city manager before I entertain the public speakers. With that, I turn the floor to you, Michael.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. We appreciate you coming out, and we understand your concern, and we share those concerns. And I just want to give a little bit of background as to how we got to where we are currently. Okay. About 15 years ago or so, the Masons, who are the owners of the landmark property and building that was built in 1926, sought to dispose of that property. And they went through a process. There were at least 5 separate contracts on that property to purchase the property. The city met with literally every one of those developers, okay, and with the Masons. And our highest priority to the Masons was to retain the building. And we shared that with the developers. And 5 developers, some very prominent developers, walked away because none of them could figure out how to sustain or renovate the building. The cost was prohibitive. And so the contracts lapsed. Okay, we met with all those people. Other officials met with them as well in the process of trying to work toward saving the building. We changed zoning. We made things a little easier to facilitate that. Finally, and we weren't informed in advance, the Masons, after 100 years of not placing the building on a historic register to protect it, took action to sell it. They lowered the asking price, and they sold it with the proviso in the purchase and sale agreement. The Masons signed a demolition permit as part of the transaction in order to facilitate the sale. Okay, the city had no part in that. Laws are the laws, and people can do demo permits on their own private property if they choose and if they're legal. Okay? Once that happened, and it was acquired by a developer, who then the demo permit was transferred to that developer. Okay? And they initiated a process which we're currently in, and we've determined that it's a development of significance, and they are required to do an environmental impact study. And the way it works is the city selects the consultant and the developer pays for that consultant. That's the process we're in right now. So I'd like to read the following information about that specific process. The city is in the environmental review phase related to Zenith Properties demolition permit application. The city council does not, emphasize, does not have a role in the environmental review phase of the project. This review falls under the purview of the city's designated SEPA official. Regarding the environmental review phase, the SEPA official reissued a SEPA, State Environmental Policy Act, determination of significance on July 27th, 2022, notifying the public that an environmental impact statement will be prepared and opening up a 30-day comment period. City council meetings are not, and that's not a criticism, we're just saying the city council cannot be a part of this environmental review per the rules of the state of Washington. So this meeting is not the proper place to submit your comments If you would like to provide comments on this pending matter, and your comments will be significant in the final determination, you can do so online via U.S. mail and at the virtual scoping meeting that's going to occur on August 15th. This will be the second in a series. All scoping comments must be received by 4:30 p.m. on August 25th, 2022. For more information, visit the project website at www.desmoinesois.gov zenith EIS. That is the place where your comments and your concerns will be registered under environmental concerns that will be reviewed and determined before any action can be taken by the developer on that property. So it's the environmental review process. The city council, and the city attorney can affirm this for us, but the city council will ultimately review a master plan for that site. They are not able to engage in the environmental review right now because that becomes a quasi-judicial hearing. So we welcome your comments. We're perfectly willing and happy to listen to them, but we're just saying this is not the venue where the determination as to what comes next will occur. Okay, with that, Mayor, I turn it back to you.
Thank you, Michael. Are there any correspondence?
No, Mayor, but we do have written public comments. Crystal Davidson, Masonic Home, Ann Wara, enforce redondo laws, enforce noise laws, enforce racing laws, signs regarding fecal scoop laws, Debbie Walls, Waterland, and Jeff Butterfield, Des Moines City Skate Park cover proposal. And that concludes the public comment.
Thank you. It is now time for public comment, or comments from the public. I would like to remind those participants that any person making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks or become boisterous, threatening, or personally abusive while addressing the council will be removed from the meeting. Each person will have 3 minutes to speak, and I will start with Mr. Rick Johnson.
I'm Rick Johnson, Redondo Beach. I knew this was going to happen. If you've been to Redondo recently, that's what you're going to hear. These cars with the kids and the mufflers and running up and down Beach Drive. They take turns going back and forth. I've seen them in a parade even. And they're doing it deliberately. I don't know why, but they think it's cute, I guess. I know some of the people that walk the boardwalk, they don't like to hear the noise either. And this audio system isn't what I was expecting. It's a heck of a lot louder than what it's showing here on my phone. But I saw a driver the other day who was following a lady, and before they got to the high-rise at 287th, he slowed down a little bit. Then he comes up to the high-rise and takes his time getting across that. All the reason for doing that is giving that woman ahead of him time to give him some space to go running up and down the Beach Drive. So anyway, we're tired of it. Absolutely tired of it. I know people that have moved, sold their house and moved. And some of it was with the airplane too, but it's almost like the airplanes, every 30 or 45 seconds. And it doesn't matter what day or night. I did see a officer the other day on a weekday, 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but that's not when the kids are down there. They're down there before sunset, and they're waiting for the, and then they're taking over the boat ramp. And even when people, I didn't even see the yellow go, even when the people that have boats are in the water, I went down and told the guy, says, hey, you can't park here.
Mr. Johnson, can you wrap it up, please?
Okay.
We have few people to speak tonight. Thank
Okay.
you. With that, the next person will be Susan White.
Hi, good evening. I'm Susan White. I live at 28742 Redondo Beach Drive South. So I'm wearing a couple of hats here, but I have to echo what Rick Johnson just said. It's become unbearable. And I mean, it's affecting my health. I'm not sleeping. I can't sleep. It sounds like gunfire. We need speed bumps along those crosswalks. And I know this is not just an area in Redondo, but this has been going on. It's worse now than it's ever been. And it's not, it's a very popular place. People love to walk on the boardwalk, but they can't stand it either. So I talked to the officer that was down there, much appreciated to get an officer there. And he said he's going to be down there at nights. And I know this isn't the whole focal point, but Des Moines, but seriously, you guys could put speed bumps in those crosswalks. I mean, we've been talking about this for 20 years. It's not impossible. It's not a freeway. That's not a commute. It is a commuter route, unfortunately, but it's a residential area. It's a residential street. So thank you for your attention on this, because really it's, I mean, I can't sleep anymore. And I went to my doctor today and I said, give me something for sleep. And she said, no. Anyway, okay, and second thing I want to bring up is Soundview Drive with the treatment plant has trucks that have really almost destroyed Soundview. It needs some attention. The potholes are terrible, and you know, maybe they should pay for repaving it, but it really does need to be looked at. It's a mess. And I'm afraid to, you know, I like to walk, but I'm afraid to walk along Soundview with all the potholes, and it's dangerous, and you know, I don't want to trip and kill myself, which is another concern. And the last thing I want to say, of course, I hope our comments that we've already made towards the Masonic home on the SEPA process are still relevant too. Okay, so certainly there's a lot of advocacy that we want to see that building stay if possible. So I think you guys all know that. But anyway, thank you for your attention on this, because really I mean, I have lived down there for 30 years, but I have never seen it this bad. It's bad. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, Susan. Moving on, it'll be Kathy Sandscott. Did I say that correctly?
Good evening, City Council members. My name is Kathy Sandscott, and I want to thank you for listening to my reasons for preserving our beautiful, iconic building, landmark of the Sound. The Sand family has lived in Woodmont since the 1950s. My father a principal, my mother an elementary school teacher in the Highline School District. My great-grandfather lived at the Masonic Retirement Home, and as a Rainbow Girl, I spent many years in that building. Des Moines has changed a lot since the 1950s. Nicknamed the Waterland City, known as the boating capital of the Pacific Northwest, and I give credit to council members past and present for their insight and leadership in helping to evolve Des Moines into the hustling, bustling town of today. These are exciting times as we emerge from the pandemic. New restaurants, coffee shops opening, launching of a passenger ferry. Des Moines is truly a destination city. Park Run, a free 5K, meets 9 a.m. on Saturdays. We attract tourists from the UK, Scotland, Ireland, and Australia. Visitors fly into the airport. They take the shuttle to the Marina District and beginning next week, they can ride the passenger ferry into Seattle. Returning from Seattle to Des Moines on the passenger ferry, they take the shuttle back to the airport and spend the night at a hotel at the airport. So why is there not lodging in the city of Des Moines, a place for tourists to stay and spend their money? The building Landmark of the Sound contains elegant architecture with box beam ceilings, hand-carved woodwork, and stained glass, making a grand destination. The magnificent views of the Olympics, Mount Rainier, and Puget Sound add to its beauty. Revenue from the lodge would kept local as visitors spend the night in this 1926 iconic historic building, truly making the city of Des Moines a destination city. Joni Mitchell wrote, "Don't it always seem to go, that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? Let's not pave paradise and put up a parking lot. Let's preserve this building for the enjoyment of future generations." Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Out of respect to the council, applause is not welcome. It's just part of the formality of the meeting, so we appreciate it if you would keep it to a minimum, please. With that, next would be George Pettibone.
Good evening, George Pettibone. I live in Zenith, Washington, and I am here to talk about the landmark on the Sound. And rather than make it negative, I'd like to make it humorous. I think that the city is cramped for their space. I think you're trying to utilize a small piece of land for a library, a fire department, a police department, a city hall, a place to go and get people fines for speeding. There's a whole bunch of stuff in here, and then the city council meetings are now encumbered by some strange happenstance of taking over part of the room. Almost 3/4 of the room is not available for us, we the people, to come and visit with you. Sign on the wall says 107 maximum occupants. I need to have these tables taken out because we're going to have more and more people show up. We are encouraging people to show up. This is America. Unlike Mr. Michael Mathias, I believe that we have every right to come before the city council. We can complain about noise down on the waterfront. We can complain about people harassing us. We can complain about gunshots going off. We can complain about the landmark on the Sound. And it's time for us to stop listening to rumors. We know that rumors are not good. And Michael, I'm sorry. In all respect, you are not correct. This is the format in America for open and public meetings. They are required by federal law. They're required by state law. Open and public meetings are an affront to some people who want to tell us to just go ahead and make a little note and send it in, and we'll take note of it. This is where the difference lies. We, the people, are starting to show up. We, the people, are here to talk. We are here to speak to you. We need the tables moved out. We want to have a nice conversation with you folks, and this is the start of the conversation. We will not be told to send it in or phone it in. 107 people can be here next time the meeting. We'll come each week. There's an open meeting, and we'd be looking forward to saving the landmark on the Sound. And, you know, a long time ago, I went to Mick Fleetwood's restaurant in Maui. There was rumors that he was going to try and buy a building. There was rumors that he was going to try and pick up on this building, which is on Front Street, facing the sunset over Maui. And he had rumors that he was unable to do that. He had rumors that they couldn't afford it. But the rumors that I heard was that he spent $4 million. He bought the whole building. It took him 4 years to get past all the city council and the building permits, but he built the killer restaurant and bar in Maui. And I've sat up on the rooftop, and I've had a cocktail, and I've had a piece of hamburger and French fries and listened to rock and roll music on the roof of Fleetwood Mac's place. And it's really, really cool. But it took him 5 years, and all by himself, he spent $4 million to renovate the building.
Thank you, Mr. Pettibone. Mr. Pettibone, just a moment of clarity, or a statement of clarity. You're more than welcome to come here and talk to the council at any given time. And you're right, that is your right. But that's not really what Mr. Mathias was talking about. He was talking about in this current juncture, in this situation, that the best position you could do is to testify in the EIS, right? The council and their role right now is we're staying out of the way right now. So you have to just understand, but you're more than welcome to come here and speak your mind every week, and we welcome your colorful annex and so forth, so thank you.
We will be here.
So
We will- and there will be more people and more people.
So
And we will-
I appreciate it. I just wanted you to know that I wanted to make that sure that nobody's deterring you from being here. And I want, as you might have stated, and it's more about where there's the right place to take action and there's the wrong place to take action. And while you're fully welcome to do your comments here,
The rumors
we're just,
about Mick Fleetwood.
sir, anyway, thank you for your time. We're gonna move on to the next person,
Okay,
all right?
and thank you.
I just wanted to clarify that we weren't, all right, with that, we're gonna move on to Azib Hagos. Did I pronounce that right? Close enough, anyway?
It's Aziab, it's just not spelled phonetically correct.
Aziab? Okay, Aziab. I will not get that wrong again.
That is all right.
Welcome. And
We'll grow on you.
because you're our district director for the school board, I'm gonna allow you 5 minutes.
Oh, well, thank you, very kind of you. I just wanted to come and introduce myself formally to you, Mr. Mahoney, Mayor Mahoney, and to you, Mr. Mathias, and to our deputy mayor, Ms. Buxton, and to the rest of our council members here. I wanted to come and say hello to you all. I've been a part of this city now for 14 years, going on 15. My husband and I purchased our home very young, and we have a few kids now. And I've been very active in my very tiny part of the community, just building community with my neighbors and building some bonds and trying to support the kids going through the pandemic with my child who started school the same time the pandemic started. I'm an educator. I work for Federal Way Public Schools as a school counselor. I have a master's in education, and I've been doing that for over a decade. So when I saw a break in my schedule, I had a little girl, and I got the chance to stay home with her when the pandemic hit. I built community within my neighborhood, and it felt right. It felt right to provide a space for our kids to come together. We had a large space downstairs at the bottom of our home, and we were able to do some things to make it work so kids had opportunities to still connect in ways that was appropriate with our rules and regulations. But doing that showed me how important it was to do this more large scale for our community, for the city of Des Moines. And so I applied for the open position for the school board director, District 5, which is who we are, District 5. And I just wanted to come here and let you know who I was and how important this role is to me and how special Des Moines is and how much I want to see, what I would like to see for my own little boy, which is academic excellence and lifetime success. And I'm dedicated to that. So I just wanted to come and say hello, tell you who I am, and introduce myself. So thank you for that time.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Our last speaker will be Mr. Lloyd Little Jr.
Thank you to the council, thank you to the public for being here, and city staff. I'm Lloyd Lytle Jr. I'm one of the organizers, along with Barbara. George is big involved, and we've got 1,200 signatures plus. It's growing daily. There is public support to preserve 100 years of our history. It's not, I know, the developer has their, rights as they bought it fair and square, and we get that. And thank you for the historic background. That's informative. So that tells us, what's going on. And we are going to comment with the environmental element, the EIS. But at the same time, we're looking at the whole process. You guys mentioned the master plan. You guys got to approve at the end. So we want to work with you guys. We want to work with the developer. We pretty much know who he is. I'm not going to say names or anything, but these are a lot of ideas for Landmark on the Sound revitalization. One of the most is winery. And if the person is who I think it is, they own a big winery. Who wouldn't want to sit up on those decks, watch a sunset like Mick Fleetwood's place, on the Sound, nice glass of wine? It's a win-win situation. So we're not trying to go against the council. We're not trying to go against the developer. Why don't we all come together and just make something that's gonna last for 100 years? The people we don't even know will come and say, wow, that 2022 generation, they were special. They gave us something for them, for generations, for your grandkids to enjoy, you know? And I believe Mr. Matthias last time went and gave us an economic report. I believe you went to Cambridge, is that correct, sir? And I mean, amazing place, right? World class. Part of it, academics, certainly, but also the architecture. I mean, would it be a good idea for Cambridge to tear their architecture down and put in something modern? You know, maybe it's more cost efficient, you know, they can maybe save a few bucks, but long-term, would they save? I don't know, I don't think so. I think our plan, with all these ideas, if the whole public comes together, how is that gonna not make money? How is that not gonna be an economic boon to this city? How is that not gonna make us Destination Des Moines? We got the airport, we got rails coming in, we got the boat. There's so many ideas. People, one of the main things I hear each time is, well, the cost, it's cost prohibitive. How much will it cost to develop it? Well, how much will it cost not to develop it? We have a gold mine there, you guys. I mean, there's so many, what business is not gonna want to rent office space in there? What business won't wanna put their restaurant there? Who wouldn't wanna stay there if you got like some hotel ideas, bed and breakfast? I mean, you're gonna lose money selling it a gold mine for pennies on the dollar versus investing long-term and doing something great for our community. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Little. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Really quick, before we go on to the next thing, I just wanted to talk to the folks in Redondo. While we'll continue to work on it, I know the police chief had given some information on that before, and he may a little bit later. But one of the things you can do is help us, is talk to your state legislators. There's law in Idaho and New York on muffler modifications and sales of aftermarket mufflers and sales of vehicles that have the built-in muffler modifications. It's something that I've been pushing for with our state legislators, and I would really appreciate your support, because that is one of the biggest, will make one of the biggest gains in what you're looking for a peaceful night. With that, I'm going to turn the floor over to Michael. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I think on the mayor's behalf, let me say as well that he was very involved in the most recent legislative session advocating for laws to protect against the theft of catalytic converters. And there's a statewide task force that's been established, and the mayor will be a part of that. So I think he's acting in behalf of our community and all communities in regards to nuisance and theft and other aspects. Thank you for coming. We always look forward to a positive relationship with Highline School District. Let me start with, as you know, we're initiating a pilot passenger ferry service starting next week from Des Moines to Seattle for 2 months. We'll have 4 sailings a day, 10, 12, 2, and 4, Wednesday through Sunday. First week tickets are free. After that, it's $10 each way. And we have discounts both for seniors and for children. And we're looking forward to that, but I'm glad you stayed, because I wanted to share one of the most exciting aspects of this is that in order to have the workforce on the boat that's necessary, the boat owner is having difficulty, as all agencies seem to be having difficulty, acquiring employees. And so we're working with the Highline School District to see if there isn't a way that we can have high school students work on the boat and get paid and learn that craft. So I think that's a very exciting aspect of this, in addition to the connectivity and taking advantage of the sound and participating with multimodal transportation. So we're very excited about that. We welcome all of you to ride the ferry if you have an opportunity. We have a guest tonight, Mark. I'd like to introduce Mr. Mark Everton. He is the relatively new director of the Regional Tourism Authority. We're working closely with Mark, and we're pleased that he's here to give us information. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Mr. Matthias, and hello, Mayor, and the rest of the council. As Michael said, I'm Mark Everton. I'm the CEO of the Seattle Southside Regional Tourism Authority, and we've recently renamed ourselves as Explore Seattle Southside, and it's made up via an interlocal agreement of 3 cities. So it's the city of SeaTac, the city of Tukwila, and the city of Des Moines. And just as a brief overview, our funding actually comes from a tourism promotion area assessment that our larger hotels, hotels that are greater than 90 rooms, are able to collect from guests, and it's $2 a room night, and that's how we're funded. So we're a public agency, but we're not receiving money from any of the typical general fund or taxpayer fundings. It comes from tourists and visitors that are staying in our area. I had a great opportunity probably 6 months ago, is that how long it's been, to take the maiden voyage of the ferry from the Des Moines Marina up to Pier 66 and back, and was absolutely smitten by the opportunities that that ferry will provide in looking at what the alternatives are, which would either be a private vehicle or taking the light rail for our travelers that are going to and from Seattle. And we felt that there were 2 particular markets for it. One of them would be a market for people, given the hours. It won't be a commute ferry initially, but it would be people that want to go up and explore Seattle and don't necessarily want to drive and deal with parking in the Pier 66 Bell Harbor area, which is non-existent, especially with the construction, and are looking for a fun, interesting alternative to take the ferry. And then converse to that would be people that live in that area of Seattle that are going to SeaTac, and an opportunity to take the ferry down and then go light rail from Angle Lake up to right into the airport. So we felt as really the marketing arm for the 3 cities that it would be a great opportunity to market this product and to be able to assist the Fast Ferry program in getting that message out. So we put a proposal forth to be able to create a brand name and a logo for it so there's an identity, and then to push that logo out and the schedule and the benefits of it via digital media to all over Southern King County, the Bell Harbor area, Pier 66 area of Seattle, and then also parts of Pierce County, and encourage people from Tacoma to come up and experience Des Moines and take the ferry. So we put that proposal forth to the LTAC committee, the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee, and it was very well received. And I think it's on the agenda, on the consent agenda for consideration by the council later on. So I thought that I would come and introduce myself and hopefully let you see how enthusiastic we are about it, and open up for possibly any questions that you might have about what we're proposing to do and how we feel that marketing this would be a benefit to both to the ferry and also to the city of Des Moines.
Mark, I'll turn it over to the mayor if there are any questions from the council, but I'd like to say that we appreciate knowing the people we write checks to. So thank you for...
You're very welcome.
Good comment.
I'll go with Deputy Mayor Buxton first.
Thank you, Mark. Could you refresh our memory if I missed it somehow, the brand and the logo? Do you have a photo, and what do you have a branding phrase that you had?
Well, the branding phrase that we're going to use is the Des Moines Fast Ferry, and that's what we're intending to name it, because that's probably the most descriptive descriptive words that we could come up with, because they answer virtually all of the questions. What is it? Where is it? And we're in the process now of doing a logo, and we've got about a half a dozen different ideas, and I'll be honest with you, Deputy Mayor, I chose not to bring them, because as soon as I show them, everybody's going to have an opinion, and we're going to boil down to, you know, why is the ferry chasing an orca, or why is there a wave? We don't have waves in the marina, so we're being very, very cautious right now before we come out. But when we do, it's clearly going to be something that that the city is going to have to endorse and approve. So there won't be it's not like, here it is and you're stuck with it. You'll very much have a say in it, and so we're prepared to figure out what's going to be best.
Thank you.
Councilmember Steinmetz.
Yeah, thank you very much. I agree. It's always nice to see the face of the people we're writing the check to, so that's a good thing, and I'm glad you're on board and think this is a good idea. Hopefully, this is just going to be a wonderful addition that can be built on as well, because I don't think just the ferry between here and downtown Seattle is the is the ultimate end result. So I hope that you guys feel the same way. What I wanted to know is there any time frame that we can expect on the logo? You've got the name out there, and then what would be the digital marketing piece of this, and how does that roll out, and what's the timeline for that?
It's a good question, because we know that there's a very short window, at least for this initial. So we're going August to October. Next year, hopefully, it will be sometime earlier in the spring to give us a larger window. As I mentioned, we're already working on some logo ideas and hope to bring those forth next week and be able to get some buy-off and approval on that. The nice thing about digital is we can move very, very quickly with it. It's not something that has to go to press and you've got to wait for it to come back. And so the intention would be, if we can get approval, A, for the funding as a part of the LTAC recommendation that's on the consent agenda tonight, and I can get everybody's buy-off on where we want to go from a logo, at least for this year. I would anticipate that we would have it out probably a week and a half, 10 days from now, and begin to start pushing that out on a social media basis. And one thing that I didn't mention, and I want to just clarify, we're not an ad agency, we're not a for-profit organization, so none of the money that you're paying is going into our coffers or going into paying us. Everything that we do is on a reimbursement basis. So any design work or any outside work that we have to have done, that needs to be reimbursed, and then all of the digital marketing is reimbursed. But there's no markup, there's no overhead, there's no additional charges. You're getting an ad agency for free, basically, that's only charging you for the media placement.
I'm going to go with Councilmember Pennington, and then I'll come back to you, Deputy Mayor.
So I know where this is just the kind of the beta test here, but is there a thought about with your advertising the connectivity between the Sound Transit and the Metro shuttle and the ferry, and how all those dots connect so that people understand that? Is there a plan to do that, and what's that timeline look like?
Yeah, there is, and it would be a part of that same rollout in the first couple of weeks. We think that the most important message that needs to get out is that it's there, and that it's not a part of the WashDOT ferries. It's not a part of the Vashon ferry or one of the other ferries that are operating, that it's truly a very unique fast ferry that's not connected with those, because people have become very gun-shy about them, because as you're well aware, listening to the news every morning, one ship isn't sailing or another ship's in for maintenance, and nobody can count on it. When I talk to people that are living out on the islands, they're very frustrated because they never know. They don't make appointments anymore because they're never sure if they're going to get on or off the island any time that they expect to. So the first thing that we want to focus on is building awareness, making sure that people understand that it's there, because it's brand new and there really hasn't been anything except a couple of press releases. And then once that's done, the next phase of that is how do you use it and what do you do with it? And talk about the free parking or the parking down on the marina, how to get there if you're not driving and you want to use the light rail coming down from Seattle to take it, and how that would work. And we'll then have digitally, the nice thing is we can then have links to the Metro schedule so that people can see that and understand from their websites how you link the light rail to the shuttle that runs down to the marina to the actual ferry itself.
So, and just a follow-up to that, and I don't know if there'll be a different pier that it will come into in the future, but currently it's at the pretty much the north end of the set of piers. Will there be some education on what, folks that don't live downtown, that go downtown, they're not really sure how to get from the north end to the south end, or how to get to maybe the sports stadiums or things like that? Will there be some education and information about that as well?
So if I may, Mayor, council member, a couple of things. That, is kind of more on the logistics side, and that level of education, I think what we're using this beta test for is to learn kind of what's needed. So that may well be an outcome as we go through the process of, how do we get people where they want to go to, and how do they know what's there for them to do. But the Seattle waterfront, in many respects, I think speaks for itself. You can get up to Pike Place Market pretty easily there from those northern steps. So just as a comment, the other thing is that what Mark is doing, and we appreciate the partnership with the RTA, and I think that, to be honest, has improved hugely over time since you took over. We've appreciated working with you. But what Mark's describing is one aspect of the advertising and marketing that we're doing. The city is also doing our own independent advertising and marketing of the shuttle. So just that's, you know, important concept and trying to expand it. And I think we've gotten a lot of coverage, so hopefully the experience can live up to the coverage.
Oh, absolutely, and I'm just excited about the multimodal transportation piece.
Yeah,
And how this is all finally coming together, so
Yeah.
thank you.
Deputy Mayor Buxton.
Thank you, Mayor. So one of the things that is listed here is talking about this app. Is that going to have the capability of gathering some kind of data that we might be able to mine for part of our purposes in our pilot here? Because are you going to be able to do something?
So just for clarification, the RTA put forth 2 proposals to the LTAC committee. One of them was for an app to assist in bringing people to Main Street, to your brick and mortar businesses. That's unrelated to the marketing program for the ferry. There's probably a little bit of crossover, but they're really 2 very distinctly different programs that we put forth. So the app won't have anything to do with the ferry at this point. And I'm happy to stay around when you get into consent, and we can, if any questions come up on the app as a part of the LTAC funding, I'm happy to address that also, or happy to address it now if you want to.
Yeah, Mark, do you want to just talk about the app and some of the...
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, since you brought it up, Deputy Mayor, I happened to be at a business council meeting about 6 months ago, and the Susie, who runs the farmers market, was talking about the opening day of the farmers market, and they assemble about 1,500 goodie bags, for lack of a better name for it, and they fill them with all kinds of coupons and chits and samples and things from primarily Des Moines businesses. And during that conversation, when a business owner mentioned, oh my gosh, those are amazing, 6 months after the farmer's market opens, I'm still finding these coupons showing up in my till. And this is for people that are coming in to redeem them to buy product or get a blowout or a brow threading or whatever the salon is providing with this coupon. So a light came on in my head, which was, we're drawing an awful lot of people to farmers market that are bypassing the brick and mortar businesses in Des Moines. And how would it be that we could create this environment where if people come to Brews and Blues or Blues and Brews, or they come to the 4th of July events, or they come to farmers market, how could we let them know that there are businesses in Des Moines? And how could we incent them by providing an app, a digital coupon book? And so for those of you that are even close to my age, the high school band used to come around the house and sell a book, and my mother used to keep it in the glove box of the car, and then we'd go to Straw Hat Pizza and she'd tear the coupon out, and that was, so this is basically that same, whatever your community called it, the gold book. We're going to call it, we'd like to call it the Des Moines Experience Pass, and it's a discount opportunity. With that app, and we currently have that app in use, and we own the license to it on our website, and we use it for our Scenes program. And so it's not an app that you've got to go to the Google store or the Apple store. You simply just get a QR code, and it appears on your phone, and it enables you. Our Scenes program for Des Moines has the Maury Island mural and has the Smuggler's cabin or house, and it's also got the kissing fish sculpture as a part of points of interest for people to see. And when they're there, the app recognizes geographically that they're there and gives them credit for it. And that works similar as a passport. That same technology works with giving people discounts. So when they physically go into a shop, their phone will ding and say, oh, hey, you know that there is a buy one, get one free, or there is a free blowout, or there is a free bottle of nail polish, or whatever it might be, or a free financial assessment if it's an Edward Jones program. And yes, the merchants can message and can communicate with people that have downloaded this app. So it's an ability for some of the small brick and mortar merchants to do that. And they can track it, and we can track it, and we'll have a good sense of how many people use the coupon for the All-Star Bar and Grill or for the hot dog place, and have a sense of how much of that utilization is occurring. So it's an opportunity to build awareness of your brick and mortar businesses that are still struggling with all of the thousands of people that come into your community, but they come in myopically focused on the farmer's market or on the 4th of July or on one of the other events. That's what the purpose of it was.
And it will be free?
Absolutely free.
Councilmember Harris, I saw your hand up.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank you for showing up and being so forthcoming. This is one of the better presentations that I've heard in my time on the council.
Thank you.
And I want you to know how much I appreciate it. A lot of people, frankly, are not as detailed and well-informed, and it matters. And that's all.
Well, thank you. If I could just clarify, you asked if it was free. The app is free. The use of the app is free. What we've asked LTAC to fund is a marketing program around that, so we can push out digital marketing, and we can do some signage and some collateral, and put QR codes and door clings in all of the merchants, and we need to pay some of the chamber ambassadors to go door to door to the merchants and get them to sign up for this and to understand it. So again, out-of-pocket expenses would be asked to be reimbursed through the LTAC. The actual cost of the licensing and our in-house expense for creation development is free. There is no charge for that.
Councilmember Steinmetz.
Sorry, you keep talking and I get an idea. It's like, oh, wait, there's more. Will the merchants be asked to pay any price to participate? No. So it's not like they're purchasing advertising on an app. This is just be a part of the app.
Correct.
Okay.
And they're given access to a dashboard, and they can change their offer around. So if you know, I don't know, if the place is giving away free fries, but now they want to give away free fish and chips on Fridays, they can go in and edit that and make that change. Or if they're sold out of nail polish and they're waiting for an order to come in, they can take the nail polish off. So it's up to them to decide what they want to do. And as we roll into the holiday season, they can adjust it to have a holiday theme to it. Or if it's blues and brews going on, they can do something to try to bring those people back into the store before they head out of town.
Councilmember Harris.
You know, I did think of something. So what type of outreach is planned for businesses? How will they become aware of this fabulous product?
So there's twofold. We've talked to the Seattle Southside Chamber of Commerce, and they've got a group of ambassadors, and quite a few of your businesses in Des Moines are a part of that chamber, and they're willing to deploy shoes on the street of their ambassadors to go door to door to the merchants and introduce themselves and provide this information and make sure that they understand that it's free. We're going to create a couple of webinars where they can then log in, and myself or one of my team members that know a lot more about it will be able to explain to them what it is and give them a training opportunity and see if they're interested in doing it. I've been speaking with Doug Myers with the Edward Jones, and he's got a group of some civic-minded people that would be very interested in helping get the word out and talking to people. I think it's also going to become word of mouth. I think it's a synergistic. If I can get a couple of merchants in one block that are on it, they're going to tell the other merchants that this is a great thing.
That's exactly what I wanted to tell you. There's going to be a bias towards people between Red Robin and the flagpole and basically the Marina District. And I would encourage you to make the extra effort to reach out to businesses throughout the city of Des Moines, because they tend to feel like the city is so laser focused on that core, and that's my only input, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Harris.
Councilmember Harris, also I might ask to remind you that the logistics and operational expertise resides with Mark. So you may make suggestions. I guess that's appropriate, but I think he is someone we trust to know his business. and to know the dynamic of downtown economic development, not just restricted to Red Robin versus the Triangle.
Thank you, Mark.
Very welcome.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. I was going to bring in the business app, but since you brought it in already, great.
Okay.
Appreciate your time. And then, Michael, please continue.
Thank you very much.
welcome.
Yes.
Thank you.
The next item, we just recently had National Night Out, an opportunity for our first responders to interact with the community. And I don't see the police chief. Okay. Did he? Great. Okay, let's move on to something else. We'll come back to that. What I'd like to do now is ask Jeff, our Deputy Director of Finance, to give a brief presentation to Council on a first quarter 2022 financial update.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Jeff Friend, Deputy Finance Director. My presentation tonight is the budget versus actuals for the general fund through the first quarter. And as you can see, I have a slide up here. There's a chart with general fund revenue and expenditures. On the chart, on the horizontal bars, I don't know if did we zoom in at least a little bit on that? Sorry, it's just a little bit smaller than I prefer. My eyesight is getting worse. The green horizontal bars are revenue categories of note. The purple bar at the bottom is operating expenses. And you might notice the percentages along the bottom on the horizontal axis. At 25%, you can see it's a little darker than the rest because we're talking about the first quarter, so that's 25% of the year. So we're seeing if we are on track compared to budget, so that would be 25% of budget. At March 31st, the general fund revenue was a little over $4.4 million, which was 18% of the annual budget. And general fund expenditures, represented by that purple bar there, is a little, almost $4.8 million, which is 19% of the annual budget. So I'd like to go through each of the revenue lines on the chart and talk about them a little bit. At least give you some dollar figures, because what's a finance presentation without the dollars? Property taxes were 5.2% of budget at March 31st. It was about $278,000 that we collected. Utility taxes, you can see, is past that 25%. That was about $1.2 million and 30.4% of the annual budget expected for utility taxes. Sales tax, that is about $935,000, and that was 27.3% of the annual budget. B&O taxes, $320,000, and there's a little tiny gap. It was 24.7%, so that was right on target. Franchise fees, $354,000, 31.6% of the annual budget. Red light running, that was about $256,000, or 21.4% of the annual budget. And finally, REIT, real estate excise tax, was $361,000, or 27.8% of budget. Now I'll go to the next slide.
Jeff, if I might add to that particular slide, a few of the anomalies you see, property taxes, of course, are collected at two different times throughout the year. So that would affect what those aggregate amounts are. Utility taxes, we both did an audit relative to especially the business park to make sure that we were receiving the appropriate utility tax. You can see that that's accounted partially in the utility taxes. Then also, I believe in recycling, there was an increase in solid waste fees that represent another portion of those utility taxes.
Inflation was adjusted by Recology as of January 1st. So
fair enough. I think it's interesting to look relative to COVID, because some of this is a reflection both on the revenue and the expenditure side. But sales taxes are healthy. That's been an anomaly of COVID. Despite COVID, there's been a strong consumption dynamic. Those just were a couple of additional comments. Thank you.
And as you know, you can look at the expenditures exceeding revenue there, but as Michael pointed out, property taxes are collected in April and October. So it's, overall, we are on track with expectations through the first quarter.
Do we want to wait till questions at the end of the presentation or during the slides? So if it's okay with council, let's wait till the end. All right, thank you.
I have one more sentence and I'm done.
No problem. That's where it's going.
When Beth Ann made her presentation last on the quarter four for 2021, there was a discussion about ending fund balance. So on this slide, you can see that number again, the 7.1 million. And so at the end of the first quarter, it's down to 6.8, and that's also again attributable to the expenditures exceeding the revenue. And again, we will be collecting property tax in April and October, and it's not reflected on this report.
And Jeff, if I may, the ending fund balance there, you will recall, and you'll see in the budget process that's coming up, that we have that 16.67% requirement that council had passed, consistent with Government Finance Officers Association. That 6.8 million, it exceeds that 16.67 considerably. So we're strong in fund balance as of the end of the first quarter.
Okay. Are there any questions?
Yes, so I'm going to open it up first to Deputy Mayor Buxton and then Councilmember Oxiger.
Thank you, Mayor. So are you, this is in regard to the utility tax collection. So are we saying that, yes, we did recognize an under collection because of a mistake in how it was being collected through the county, and that we received a lump sum in reimbursement? Or are you saying that the increase shown with the utility taxes is just, that percent is an ongoing, that will be an increased amount on a regular basis?
I would say that of the increase over the prior year, half of it, I think, is related to the Recology inflation adjustment. Is one piece, though that might be mixed in with the audit results. I'm not familiar enough with the audit to explain if that's like going to be ongoing or not, or what the actual effect of that was.
Beth Ann, do you want to comment on the audit, please?
Hi, Beth Ann Rowe, Finance Director. The audit that we had, I think in checking, I know that one of the goals was to check to make sure that the business park and the new businesses up there were paying their fair share. And so when the company went through the addresses and the billing, they were paying their fair share. I think also as the businesses have got up and running and are continuing, we've seen an increase in just their productivity from that. And just through the process, I don't know if there's more accurate reporting, but I do think that there's been a result of the audit, but there hasn't been like big chunks of revenue that we were missing that we could assess other than the inflation adjustment for Recology. But I'm hoping just through that process, things are more accurate, and having communication with the audit firm, at least they know we're looking at it. So it's not like nobody's watching, so.
Thank you.
Did you want to make a comment?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Councilmember Oxiger.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the report. I would ask, though, that since the actual numbers were presented verbally, and this is going to be put in the packet, is there any way that you can assign the actual numbers to this chart? So we know that, for example, property tax is 5%. How much is that?
Right, yeah, I will look at that. That was an Excel challenge. I didn't have a chance to actually get on top of the chart. But
If I may also, Councilmember, that may be useful amount of time or not, but this is first quarter, you remember. We're now in third quarter. We'll have a second quarter update. Maybe we do a second quarter update. We can aggregate what those numbers are rather than going back in time and determining what they are.
Well, I think for comparison purposes, it would be extremely helpful. From quarter to quarter or whatever to get some idea of what we're doing. I mean, we're being presented the information verbally, I'd like to have it written down so that we can refer to it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilmember Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. So we're now into August. Is the lead time in preparing this update lengthier because of COVID and all of that stuff, or would it typically be this same kind of
It's not unusual for it to be this late. The main reason, and this is just different places I've worked in my career as well as here, is in the finance department, the beginning part of the year is preparing the annual financials and closing out the prior year. So usually that would come first, and then we'll come, that's why it's following the Q4 so closely. I think with the new financial system next year, that there could be an improvement. It wouldn't be as late, but it's never going to be like we'll close the year and then all of a sudden.
It's like you read my mind. Thank you, sir.
And additional comment on that, a couple of things. There was a new financial management system implemented by our finance department, which took time. There's the adjustments to COVID and all the reconciliation associated with that. And there was the American Rescue Plan Act funds and the accounting, distribution and accounting for those funds. So there were a number of factors that led us to where we are today. And you will see a Q2 report at some point, and then we're going to have our budget retreat, which will be a comprehensive review of our finances on September 8th. And thank you, Jeff.
I have one more question. So, being at Nordstrom and our online business, obviously we don't have the new car dealerships and the big box stores like many of the cities surrounding us do. I don't know if you can see the types of sales or where the source is, but it seems that there was laws changed that the destination zip code receives some of the sales tax along with the shipping destination. And it'd be interesting to see if that was something that may have been the reason why we're seeing the success we're seeing in that particular category.
We do produce a monthly sales tax report that has the different segments, and so, before this meeting, I made sure to look at that in case somebody asked about sales tax.
Just out of curiosity.
But retail, wholesale, and services, and construction a little bit were what was strong in the Q1.
That might make sense. Okay, thank you.
Sorry. As we had on Tuesday night was National Night Out, which was an opportunity for the community to interact with our first responders. I know that Ms. Nadia's spread is always well appreciated. And I know a number of our council members participated. I know Councilmember Nutting is typically found at Midway Park flipping burgers. And so I wanted the chief to just talk briefly. We had, the news every night, always watch the news at 11, and it's dismal for the most part relative to violence and crime and assaults and everything else. And it turned out that on National Night Out, we had some really good news, and not the least of which the chief being interviewed on the local media as a result. So Chief, could you share with us what happened?
Yeah, so, good evening, council and Council Member Nutting. You cook up a mean burger, and Nadia, ribs. Yeah, so you guys both did an awesome job, and the rest of the community. National Night Out was a great event, and thank you, community, for your participation. But yeah, we had a really unfortunate incident in our community that ended up, I think, with some pretty good news. We had a person, a mother from Oregon, up visiting in our community, and she stopped in at the gas station, the Chevron station at 240th and Pacific Highway South, and she had a 6-month-old baby in the back of the car, and she had left that car running. And when she went into the store, subject got out, went into her car and stole the car. And so, of course, the baby was inside. It was a major concern for the safety of the baby.
Interesting, I just want to give a brief, I shared this at the public safety meeting this morning, or earlier this afternoon. But next council meeting, we're going to bring several of our newly hired officers here, and you're going to get a chance to meet them. But one of them happened to be first on the call. And when the officers arrived, they discovered that the mom, the victim, was hearing impaired and couldn't communicate. So the officers could not communicate with her, but she was in a panic. And so we were quickly scrambling to find somebody who could communicate fluently in sign language. And our new officer, who's less than a month out of the police academy with his training officer, pulls out his iPhone and starts typing in messages, gives it to the victim. She types back. We got the communication. We got the information we needed almost immediately. The officers then contacted the detectives. The detective sergeant contacted the King County Prosecutor's Office because the mom's phone was left in the car. So we were able to get an emergency warrant, track the cell phone, and within less than an hour, we were able to get a ping on the location of the cell phone, and we located the vehicle. I believe we saved that baby's life because the car, the bad guy left the car, turned it off, all the windows rolled up. It was over 95 degrees out that day, and it was extremely hot. So we were so fortunate to find the vehicle and recover the baby so quickly. And an hour is a long time to be in a car in 95-degree heat, but the baby's going to be fine. She's got a clean bill of health and is reunited with mom. And so I think that's just a really great illustration of the fantastic police work, cooperation, teamwork, communication, all the way. We had officers from SeaTac, Burien, King County, Federal Way, Tukwila, Kent. We had officers from the entire region coming to help try to find that baby. So just a great example of working together, police, prosecutors, to get to recover the vehicle and most importantly the baby.
That's awesome, but tell us the best part, or the next best part of it, in terms of apprehending.
Oh, gosh, yeah, so very important. So interestingly enough, so the officers working that day took a real ownership in that case. So it generated a lot of news media. So we captured the video, put it out on the news, got some Crime Stopper tips on who the possible suspect was, who it looked like. And we called out the crime lab, fingerprint groups, everybody, and we found some physical evidence. And it was a fingerprint on mom's phone that matched the subject identified in the tip. So now we knew who we were looking for, and a crew of our officers went out and scoured once we discovered and we knew who it was, and they found this person, this suspect, right up at Kent Des Moines Road and Pack Highway, and took him into custody that day. So it was a great work by our police officers. The suspect had altered his appearance, shaved his head, and did some things to alter his appearance, but we were able to identify him and get him into custody. He was out of custody on a prior auto theft from a couple of months ago in Des Moines, where he stole a car in Des Moines. We arrested him in Des Moines. He was released. He was back out in the community, and I think he had 5 or 6 prior felony convictions. So there's been quite a bit of discussion on the justice system in King County, but we're working on it.
Yeah, that's just tremendous. Yeah. Tremendous police work. You guys are great.
Yeah, it was great work.
Any comments, anyone?
Councilmember Pennington.
Well, I said this during the public safety meeting, and I'll say it again, but the level of professionalism that our officers bring is second to none. You know, they have showed that they have ownership, they have pride in what they do. They treat, the way they treat people and the way they go the extra mile. And in today's world, you know, sometimes it's tough for them to do that. I mean, it's a thankless job, but our officers have always for over 40 years that I've worked with this organization, have always been above board, and that speaks to the culture of the organization. That speaks to the leadership. It speaks to your brand new officer who came out. Everybody from the newest officer on the street to the police chief deserves huge credit for this, and they did save that baby's life. That is right at the mark, and the level of work, the regional cooperation, the relationships that have been built, you know, it saved this baby's life, and that is something that is it's hard to describe that and what that means to that family. And so thank you, Chief. Thank you to all of our officers, the folks that are working in the front office to support them, the support that they get from your city staff, your city manager, all of your folks. It just isn't one person or one thing. It's a huge team. And this really exemplifies the importance of public safety and what you're doing. And again, you know, it comes with a long line of pride and ownership in this organization. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for recognizing that. I'm very proud of our team.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chief. We're getting to the end here, Council. Two more items. One, this evening on consent, there are 3 items that you've seen before, and we just thought it would be a little simpler. We have Tommy, our city engineer, and Tyler, our stormwater expert, are going to just kind of briefly describe items 6, 7, and 8, and you know, hopefully we can answer any questions you might have in advance of these items being reviewed on the consent calendar. Tommy, please.
Thanks, Michael. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Tommy Owens, City Engineer. So as Michael stated, tonight we have 3 items from the surface water capital improvement projects that are on the consent agenda. So we just want to give a brief presentation to kind of go through those projects. So with that, I'll turn it over to Tyler Beakley, who's the project manager for these projects.
Great, thank you, Tommy. Thank you, City Manager. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tyler Beakley again, Civil Engineer in Public Works, only surface water focus. So yeah, the aim of this presentation is just to provide additional context on these 3 projects and answer any questions that the council may have. So the 3 projects on the agenda tonight, we have the Barnes Creek Kent Des Moines Road Culvert Project, we have the Kent Des Moines Road and 16th Avenue Pipe Project, and we have the North Fork Mcsorley Creek Project. All 3 of these projects are in different phases in construction and kind of spread out across the city, so added context is always beneficial. And just an extra note that all 3 projects were approved at the November 2021 comp plan amendment we had for our swim program, and they're also on our city website under the Public Works surface water page. So diving into the first project we have here, and the snippet here is just from the original 2015 comp plan itself. This shows our Barnes Creek Kent Des Moines Road Culvert Project. So this is on Kent Des Moines Road in between 10th Avenue South on the mid-block and 16th Avenue South. About 20 feet below the road is a 24-inch culvert that's aged and in poor condition. So the goal of this project is to replace that culvert, and it's also been highlighted by the state as a fish blockage. So the motion today is to amend in an existing agreement we have with WashDOT to cover the construction phase of the project. Two previous agreements have already been in place with the city at a 50-50 cost share for the design. And the 50-50 cost share originates because the state has an initiative through the tribes to replace fish passage blockages throughout the state. And the city has onus to repair a aging and undersized pipe. So around, I believe it was 2015, the city got together with the state and came up with an agreement, a joint venture to do this project. And right now it's WashDOT led. So that brings us to the motion to fund the construction phase of the project at a total cost for the city of $1.5 million roughly for the construction phase. It'd probably be better to ask questions before I move on to each other project so we can stay on the project.
Are there any questions on this particular project? Councilmember Harris.
Cost overruns, you know, are there any anticipated increases? Everything construction related seems to be so much more.
Right, great question, and surprisingly on this one, it came under what we were expecting through the WashDOT budget estimate. Now they are going to bid to construction at the end of August, so we have to see what the bids come in at and see if there's any expected cost overruns there. But through their engineer's estimate, it's looking in a good spot.
Thank you.
All right, seeing no more questions, we'll move on to the next one.
The next project, and I'll briefly cover it, Kent Des Moines Road and 16th Avenue project. So just to the east of that project, we have another culvert under Kent Des Moines Road that's historically undersized and aged and is ready to be replaced. We have design programmed for this year, and construction is scheduled for next year through our 6-year CIP. The goal of this project is to eliminate flooding over Kent Des Moines Road during high rain events and as it affects downstream properties, and to remedy that. So the proposed motion today is to approve a task order with KPG to initiate design of the project totaling just over $200,000. And again, that's design and permitting services.
Any questions before we go on to the next one? Or is that it?
Last project.
All right.
Yep. This is our North Fork Mcsorley Creek Diversion project, and this is in construction currently. This is down off 20th Avenue and 245th. Main goal of the project is to divert high flows that you see in the wintertime around the creek, around where it goes beyond the backyards of many homes there, and kind of the banks of the creek rise and impact the backyard. So that's the goal of this project. Today's ask and motions ask for additional contingency on the project as we run into unforeseen site conditions with poor soil quality, additional sloughing, and a few utility conflicts. The cost increase on the contingency ask originally approved by council was $63,000. We're asking that to be raised to $198,000. And that was my last.
All right, Councilmember Steinmetz, you have the floor.
Yeah, 68 to 190 some odd thousand is a huge increase. What's driving that? And help us understand why you need so much. There's contingency, please.
Absolutely. So a lot of little items and two big ones. I'll speak on the two big ones. One is we have a unanticipated water main conflict where we had to redesign our through the track there as the end of the pipe run meets the creek. We had to redesign our alignment, which adds added costs for materials and excavation. And then also, I'll try not to get too bit in the weeds, but because it's a city-owned tract and not in the right-of-way, the city is responsible for the cost of the relocation of the water main. If we were in the right-of-way under a franchise agreement, the water district would, on their own dime, relocate. But because it's on a city-owned property and the city-owned tract, then that cost was added to the city. So that was one big component of this change order. And then the other cost increase are coming from the materials on site. So when they started excavating, there was a lot of clay soil that they weren't able to bring to their bidded pit site. So they had to find a new pit site that would accept this clay material in Enumclaw, which added a larger commute time for their trucks, more turnaround time, so there's extra delays in excavation, and the fees for dumping the soil were also increased. And then there was a few other minor change orders, one other minor utility conflict with the sewer line. We have a driveway and a ADA matching where we have to replace a portion of a driveway. So all these add up to roughly 100, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the number.
130,000 more?
Yes, so, and then on top of that, we're asking for additional contingency to cover the remaining project for any future unforeseen conditions, so we don't have to come back here tomorrow. Yes.
Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted to know. So perfect. Thank you.
Councilmember Nutting, and then I'll go to you, Councilmember Harris.
I had a question about the water line being on city property. So is that Water District 54 water?
No, this is Highline.
Highline water?
Yes.
And did they pay for an easement prior?
So they have an easement through, and I believe that was initiated through the original plat development of that neighborhood. And we spoke with legal when this first happened to make sure that, yes, indeed, this wouldn't apply to our franchise agreement, and there's no language on that easement that would indicate it's their responsibility.
So maybe that's something that we can look at in future, so we're not stuck holding the bill. Oh, absolutely. So this was an inherited property from King County. Yeah, this was something that King County did a long time ago. So we just got stuck with it after the annexation. We're finding out these King County things. We find them out all the time lately. Yeah, but yeah, that's certainly something we wouldn't be doing now. Thank you.
Councilmember Harris.
Thank you. So two quick things. So clay soil in Des Moines, who'd have thunk it? I mean, this was not predictable. I'm not trying to give you a hard time, but.
Right, so this came down to not having a geotech report on this project, and that's just not typical with these smaller projects to go do ground exploration prior. So,
I don't want to go too into the weeds.
Sure, okay.
It sounded a little bit like.
There was more clay than was typically expected, and it may have been warranted and maybe could have been predicted given the vicinity to the creek. And
you'll get them next time. So the other thing I wanted to ask is, none of this, and this may be an ignorant question, but none of this was eligible for any kind of King County funding through the flood district, or?
Yes, so there is a grant we have on this project for $285,000 through the King County Flood District that's helping to support the project in general.
So this is in addition to the grant money?
Correct. The grant money helps support the original approved construction contract.
Okay, so there's no opportunity
or additional.
Yeah.
Not that I'm aware of once you're already underway, but it may be something to look into.
So you can't retroactively, once you start construction, you can't go back and say, hey, we had to get this done this year, and.
Not that I'm aware of, but again, it's something I can look into.
I'm just curious, because every meeting I go to, they talk about, we're setting aside more money for exactly these types of projects. And so, okay, thank you.
I just wanted to point out that change order for the soil was a lot higher than what we've negotiated it to be now. It was a very big dollar amount, but we worked with the contractor. And Tyler also made some modifications on the ground that allowed them to have a storage area so that they weren't taking so many trips. So that saved them time and saved us money. So, yeah.
Thank you, Tim.
Councilmember Oxiger.
Yes, thank you. And I'm sorry if I missed it. What is the distinction between the green line and the dotted line?
Great question. I think that is just a mapping, two different layers indicating the same creek. So these snips were taken from our original 2015 comp plan. They're both indicating North Fork Mcsorley Creek, probably two different jurisdiction layers.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Tyler, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hopefully that's helpful, council, to understanding those items, and we appreciate that. And finally, we come to our last item, last but not least, and I'd like to start this by introducing just an extraordinarily talented group of individuals who constitute our Human Resources Department. So if AJ is our director, Shauna works on all kind of different issues for us and does a great job. We have Betsy, who's not here tonight, but between the three of them, they do a ton of work. And one of their challenges, and our challenges as a city, council, staff, and HR, has been finding employees in this environment extremely difficult to do. And so AJ and Shauna and Betsy, put their heads together and created some very interesting videos that we wanted to share with you that we're using for recruitment. So AJ, with that, I turn it over to you.
Got excited it was going to come up right away, but. So good evening. My name is Adrienne Johnson-Newton, and I'm the HR director for the city. So as Michael said, one of the major issues that we're dealing with right now, along with other public and private employers, is being able to find staff. The labor market is extremely tight. And so from a recruitment standpoint, the city's pretty unique. We're surrounded by larger cities. We have, Renton, Federal Way, Tacoma, Seattle. And so as we sat down as an HR team and we started to think about, how can we make ourselves stand apart from our job competitors? And, outside of a competitive salary package and a benefits package, what else makes the city the place, where people want to work? And, really the answer is always the same. It's our staff. It's their dedication and the passion and the work that we do for this community. So that realization led to the idea of having videos filmed, highlighting our staff and also the various programs and departments that the public interacts with. And so we enlisted Interchange Media, which actually shot the police recruitment videos. And if you haven't seen those yet, I would recommend that you go to our website, to the police department, and under the Now Hiring link and check them out, because they're pretty awesome. So we enlisted that film crew to film some videos for us. And essentially what we ended up with is a video package. And there's 3 videos. It's a recruitment video, an engagement video, and then a message from our city manager. So tonight we'd like to show you the final product. Before I turn it over to Tara to start the videos, I just want to mention that the staff in the videos, they were asked, some would say voluntold, but asked to participate. And one of the things that I found pretty striking when I was watching the videos to start to make edits is that they weren't given a script. It was just like, hey, we're going to have these videos, don't panic. We just want you to talk about your experience working here at the city. And what I will say is I've seen these videos many times, and each time I walk away just feeling really proud that I work with the people that I do. So hopefully you guys will get the same feeling. I'm really excited to show this. And so we're going to turn it over to Tara. It'd be total, there's 3 videos, maybe about 15 minutes. We could just have your attention.
Success in Des Moines is people are invested in the outcomes and they care. Fortunately, we've acquired such an incredible staff working together as a team to do the best they can for our community, to listen and to reflect what our community wants.
My name is Bonnie Wilkins, and I'm the Director of Administrative Services in the City Clerk. There are many important aspects to the City Clerk's office that we take care of that have a direct impact to the public. We're the go-to. If people have questions, they come to the City Clerk's office. We communicate with the public. We take care of public records. We do claims, civil service, business licenses. We love serving the public, and we're here to help in any way that we can.
My name is Lisa Leone, and I am the Municipal Court Judge for the City of Des Moines.
I love this community. I love the size of the community. What I would like people to know is that this is your municipal court. They should expect always respectful treatment and a fair forum within which to resolve disputes.
Here at the building department, we do the building inspections, electrical, framing, mechanical, and plumbing. We're kind of the first line of defense in regards to safety. We're there to ensure that it's all done code compliant.
Making sure that buildings and houses are safe to occupy.
One of the biggest parts of my job for the community is making sure that the residents know how to be prepared in case of an emergency, make sure that they're 2 weeks ready. And I actually conduct citizen emergency response training courses, otherwise known as CERT. We train them all about incident response, first aid, search and rescue. At the end, we do a huge simulation like an earthquake took place. It's wonderful because you get people across all age groups and they start building their own community because they get to know who their neighbor is or maybe somebody across town. And so it builds engagement all across the city. In the end, it benefits everybody because everybody's prepared, everybody's ready, and it helps us recover a lot faster.
So our public works crews are split into 3 teams. We have our surface water staff, our transportation staff, and our parks staff. Our crews go out in the field and they handle our day-to-day operations. So they'll do catch basin and pipe installs, cleaning of our stormwater system, and then just parks maintenance. The most important aspects of our department are public safety or environmental impacts as far as water quality and impact to the Puget Sound. We work really hard in investigating sources of pollution and stopping those. And I really enjoy public education and outreach where we get to interact with our citizens and support these clean water aspects.
The marina is a focal point of this community. We try to make it a place for people to come to, both by water and by land. Running the marina is really a team effort. Our staff do absolutely everything that they can to better the city, better this location, better it for the community.
The City of Des Moines offers multiple indoor and shelter spaces for private events. We serve as a place for community members to hold their events and have a safe place for them to be here. We are actively booking events. We are actively accepting permits.
Hi, I am Nicole Nordholm. I am the Director of Parks, Recreation, and Senior Services for the City of Des Moines. In the Parks Department, we run everything from before and after school care to our wonderful Camp Chaos. We also are currently running youth soccer. At our Senior Activity Center, we serve hot lunch 4 days a week. We host card tournaments and a variety of games. We do work directly with the community, responding to what they need and want, both in sports, in activities, in outdoor volunteer opportunities. This is a small but passionate community. People are prideful of their city and the programs we offer, and it's just really a wonderful community to be a part of.
Having lived in the city of Des Moines my entire life and having worked for the city for the past 24 years, I'm very excited for the future the city has.
The city is going through a period where things are evolving and developing, and being here allows us the opportunity to be a part of that change and be a part of that growth.
Nice way to end.
There's a variety of different jobs here at the city that can grow into a career. We have our legal department, our court, our building and planning department, our permit counter, our IT and finance, the marina ensuring there's safety on our waters. Our PD plays a huge part in the safety of Des Moines.
My name is Jennifer Johnson. I'm the Court Executive Officer for Des Moines Municipal Court. I've been here working for the city for 23 years, and I've been working in the judicial system for 33 plus years. It has offered a lifetime of opportunity that I never thought that I would ever have. I am definitely an outside the box thinker, and I'm always trying to progress forward. And my judge and my city manager, they fully support that, and we are constantly talking about evolving.
So my name is Adam O'Donnell. I've been the Parks Maintenance Lead for 8 years, and I've been here for 15. It's just been a really great place to work. I was able to move around to different departments, and I've had a lot of opportunities here. Even if you're starting out with not a lot of experience, you have good people around you to help guide you and train you.
My name is Eric Lane, and I serve as a land use planner and economic relief and resource coordinator. Working within the city, you're able to kind of touch on so many different things: economic development, housing, environmental aspects, community engagement. So it does allow for jumping off to different opportunities, different projects, and keeps things lively.
I'm Betsy Dunn, and I'm the HR project coordinator here for the city of Des Moines. I am a temporary employee, and I thought I was going to be here for just 6 months, and here I am almost 3 years. So for me, with kids at home, I'm super grateful to have the flexibility to use my skill set. I definitely feel like I have a voice at the table.
My name is Tara Keene. I'm the Deputy City Clerk here at the City of Des Moines. I've been working for the city since 2010. I started out part-time and then I moved into an office specialist position at Parks and Rec, and then I was promoted to the assistant recreation manager, and now I'm the deputy city clerk. I'm still learning every single day, and that's one thing that I really like.
My name is Kelsey Teig, and I am the recreation specialist for the city of Des Moines. I've been with the city roughly 13 years. I started as part-time and worked my way up to full-time position. We get to interact with a lot of the community members. I love to build relationships with the families and the children.
This community has a lot of amenities, and people feel very passionate about those, and so it's our job to make sure that we kind of keep those up. We want people to come here, we want people to develop, and so getting their buy-in, getting their engagement, and feeling like they are empowered is key.
It's always been a really tight-knit group where you know everybody that's in the other departments.
Everybody's so positive and encouraging.
We have chili cook-offs.
We have really good food.
Our wellness committee does a lot of fun activities. It's casual here. You can come by, talk about March Madness, go grab lunch together, and then come back and do your work.
We are definitely a team-oriented city. All of us are willing to pick up and help, whether it's in our job realm or not.
We all get an opportunity to learn what each other does and how our role plays a big part in how the city runs.
All the different work groups in the city have had a really good relationship with city management. They listen to concerns or needs.
We have a really competitive benefits package here. We want to take care of the employees. Our exec team is always looking out for our staff.
Anyone that wanted to come here to the city, I would encourage them to come because it's a great place to work.
The city's really growing. Just excited to see where it's going to be in 10 years.
There's so many great opportunities. We look forward to hearing from you and be on the lookout for the city of Des Moines because we have exciting things ahead.
My name is Michael Mathias. I'm the City Manager of Des Moines, Washington. It's a very exciting time with huge amount of opportunities, relatively small city, about 33,000 people. I think the key to success in Des Moines is so you can have the knowledge and the satisfaction that you're contributing to the well-being and growth of a very interesting city, the only marina between Tacoma and Seattle, access to the sound, and a great community to work in. People have opportunities to carve out careers here and be successful and to be part of a team. We have a diverse staff. We want to encourage more diversity. I want people to be happy here and have a good time and be comfortable and feel like they're achieving things, making sure that we do the right thing and that we're effective at what we do. We're very inclusive in terms of inputs from all of our staff, and that's important for a couple of reasons. One, we get a better result, and secondly, it gives people ownership in the process. Everybody just respects each other. They work cooperatively. We follow more of a corporate model than we do of a traditional public sector model. Roles and responsibilities are defined among our senior staff and then among the departments. That creates opportunities for growth, stability. People appreciate what they're doing contributes to a larger picture. Those dynamics tend to support people staying here for a longer period of time. We try to make sure that we're at least competitive in pay. We have a council that's forward-thinking, that's progressive, that's positive, and supportive of change. So there are lots of improvements relative to quality of life, safety, economic development, active parks programs, recreational programs, team sports. We have a lot of trails, and work closely with Highland School District, and our commitment to do the very best for this city that would provide both the opportunity for people to live here, raise their families, have a great time, take advantage of the incredible Northwest, be in a city that's very respectful of its environmental responsibilities, of its stewardship of the relationship with Puget Sound. For us, it's up to each individual to make the choice to contribute to this city. And if you feel that's something you can do, trust me, you'll have a great experience here.
Yeah, good job. Just one last footnote to that. You saw Shauna who does a great job for us, and we're just working with her on some of her choices for March Madness and NBA Finals. But other than that, but Mayor, thank you, Council, for your patience, but that concludes our city manager report.
Does she have a case of Ohio State-itis? Is that what it is?
It's non-dubs more.
Oh, my gosh. There is help. And quite a couple encores there, Michael. I was impressed. Before we go to the consent agenda, I just wanted to cover a couple of items. So as you guys well know, that between our last meeting and this meeting, former Mayor Bob Scheckler passed away. He was the mayor here for 8 years. I think he was on council for 16 total. 20, yeah, even more so. So apparently what they're trying to do is get enough money for a park bench to, honor him. And what I'd like to do with the Hearts and Minds funds is to donate $250 to that bench. In addition to that, there's Frank Olson, retired in 2009 after serving the city for over 23 years in public works as the public works superintendent. Frank watched the city grow and change through annexations of areas in Redondo and North Hill and managed the maintenance division with very limited budget, personnel, and resources. He always found a way to meet the citizens' needs and address their concerns. Frank retired with his wife and their wife to their vacation home in Leavenworth, and then more recently to Alabama to be close to their grandson. And he also passed away. And I'd like to also get the approval to send flowers to his family in that regard.
I would make the motion that we support both.
I'll second that.
Okay, with all those in favor, raise your right hand. Seeing 7-0, we'll let the city staff take care of that for us. Thank you. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our city clerk. Tara, please read the consent agenda.
Item 1, approval of vouchers. Item 2, approval of minutes. Item 3, lodging tax advisory committee and spending recommendations. Item 4, 2022 Waterland Events agreement with Destination Des Moines. Item 5, acceptance of vehicles for 2021 and 2022 WASPIC Mental Health Field Response Team Grant. Item 6, Barnes Creek Kent Des Moines Road Culvert Project Agreement, GCB 3395, Amendment Number 1 with Washington State Department of Transportation. Item 7, Kent Des Moines Road and 16th Avenue South Pipe Project 2022 to 2023 Consultant On-Call Agreement for Engineering Services. Item 8, North Fork Mcsorley Creek Diversion Project Construction Contingency Increase. And that concludes the consent calendar, Mayor.
Thank you, Tara. With that, Councilmember Nutting.
I move to approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
I have a first and second. Is there anyone that wishes to pull an item? Councilmember Steinmetz.
If I can just actually, it's not to pull an item, it's to comment on it. We had discussed that there were several items I thought didn't belong on the consent agenda, and we have effectively had quite a good presentation on number 3, 6, 7, and 8. And I appreciate that very much. I think that those do need to be separate agenda items because had we done the normal consent agenda on this, we wouldn't have had those presentations, I don't think. And I think it's important for those of us that haven't been on the council the last time 6, 7, and 8 were considered, and to anybody that's watching either here in the audience or on any of the other places it's broadcast, it gives the transparency to what we're doing to people in the city at large, that they understand these are great things, and I think it does them a disservice to put them on a consent agenda when they're not fully discussed. And I think they need to be separate items in order to show the people what we're doing and to make sure that those of us who are new to the council, who may not have considered these before, although I'm pretty sure I was at the November meeting when they were discussed, I think that would be the appropriate place. At this point, I am happy to have them on the consent agenda.
Thank you, Councilmember Steinmetz. I would say that please feel free to contact the city staff, Michael in particular, with questions in regard to these. Typically, in the decision making of putting something on the consent agenda, like in these particular three items, they'd been on council, in front of the council for several years with so forth, and you noted that you were new and would not know those things, but I encourage you to ask the questions first if you get the chance with our staff, and they can provide those. But I do appreciate the city manager offering to put those presentations together today. With that, do we have any Councilmember Harris?
Yes, I would like to pull items 3 and 4.
Items 3 and 4. So item 3 is the Lodging Tech Advisory Committee and spending recommendations. And item 4, the 2022 Summer Waterlands Event Agreement with Destination Des Moines. Yes, is there any other items anybody wishes to remove?
It's not an item, but I would just like to second the sentiments of Councilmember Steinmetz.
And again, I hear you, and well, I encourage you to ask questions with the city staff.
Okay, but I think
that is the process.
I think the point is, though, that the public needs
point of order, Mayor.
Anyway, understood. We're in the consent agenda, and we've heard your reasoning, and we hear it. You being the two new ones, we get that. With that, consent agenda would be items 1, approval of vouchers. Item 2, approval of minutes. Item 5, acceptance of vehicle for 2021-22 Waspic Mental Health Field Response Team. Item 6, Barnes Creek, Kent Des Moines Road Covert. Item 7, Kent Des Moines Road and 16th Ave South Pipe Project. And item 8, North Fork Mcsorley Creek Diversion Project. With that being said, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Those 6 items pass 6-0, or 7-0, my mistake. All right, moving on to item 3. I turn the floor to you, Councilmember Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I have a question regarding the reimbursement of the expenses for the fireworks. This sort of ties into number 4 as well. I guess I have sort of an ongoing concern. These are wonderful Destination Des Moines, Farmers Market, so forth, but essentially we're giving them grants to do stuff, and their originating purpose was to be self-sustaining, and so I'm just throwing it out there that I'm hoping this doesn't become an ongoing kind of a deal. Is there any, it's concerning to me that it's kind of becoming an annual thing with some of these organizations, and either they're going to be freestanding or we're going to be subsidizing them, and that should be a conversation. That's really more of a comment, I suppose, but yeah.
Councilmember Harris, if I may, and I can only attribute this to some strange alignment of the planets, but I completely agree with your comment.
Hey, the clock, the thing, and so on. But it's been an ongoing thing for, and again, all these organizations are really fantastic, but they were designed to be freestanding, and somehow we have to figure out how that works. The other thing regarding...
Councilmember, before you go on, if I may add to that, I think that, as I said, I think that critique is worth consideration. And I think one of the reasons we're now at the place we are had to do with a number of the constraints and kind of hiccups and in a provision of events, and all of that came with COVID. And I think that now it's appropriate, and especially next year, to look at what's the most efficient and responsive manner for the city to participate in those events. So just an additional comment.
Yeah, it's your point is well taken. I mean, it just seems like every event now there's some sort of like, is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? And the other thing is regarding the, I really appreciated the presentation from Mark, but they're going to be doing a digital marketing campaign on top of the $70,000 that's in the June contract, and that does not thrill me. And so I will be voting no on this. And I guess that's it.
All right, Councilmember Steinmetz.
Yeah, maybe I'm confused, but as I see in the discussion section under item 3, that the application is from the City of Des Moines for reimbursement. So we're not reimbursing Destination Des Moines, but there was a city expenditure to help pull off the event, and the city is just asking to have that money put back in their budget under the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee in spending recommendations. Is that accurate?
Technically, yes. In years past, Destination Des Moines has paid those costs.
I understand that, and that's why there was an issue.
So this year,
the efficient way to do it, but this is, we're not giving money back to Destination Des Moines.
sort of not. I mean, normally they would pay that. So instead, the city paid it.
And the city's now asking to be reimbursed.
Yeah, with our lodging.
Right, out of this particular tax fund.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Councilmember Oxiger.
Okay, this is on the same point. Is the procedure then not that Destination Des Moines in the past has paid these, but they've paid these out of these funds, the RTA funds? So isn't the proper procedure for this to be, rather than an application from the city, because if I remember correctly, the city is not eligible for the RTA funds,
That's not correct.
The process has to come through the nonprofit organization first?
That's not correct. City's eligible for RTA funds under state law. That's very clear. We apply all the time.
In the past, the money has gone through those channels, but it could have gone through the city to cover those costs. And that's why the change was made.
In fact, I wish we'd do it more. No, frankly.
Yeah, Councilmember Harris, I haven't recognized you. Do you have any more? Councilmember Harris,
Well, no, it's just that you look at, we have not taken full advantage, in my opinion, of basically the services that RTA and Southside Chamber of Commerce afford us, and I see the value that they provide CTAC and Tukwila. And to me, this is, you know, in a way, it's a very welcome thing. So that's all.
Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead, Michael.
I think a point to be made in this is that in the past, not to dwell on the past, but I would say the process was not as open as it currently is. And so I think we're trying to establish a new relationship. That was the value of having Mark here for you all to see him, meet him. Trying to establish a new relationship where everything that is associated with funds from the RTA are clearly delineated relative to council's knowledge and to our operations. And that's where we're going. So there's history. We're not, at this moment, cleaning up history. We're just going forward on a new path that I think is more appropriate and transparent.
Councilmember Nutting. I saw you, Councilmember Pennington, too.
I move to approve the recommendations as submitted by the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee for the expenditures of the lodging tax funds. That's item number 3.
Second.
First, second, but I'm going to allow Councilmember Pennington to speak before I take a vote.
So how do they get the funds in the past if they didn't come through the city?
So previously, the council had an agreement with the RTA and the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee that 100% of the funds that the city collected for lodging tax went to the RTA. So that was what the council approved every year. And then the RTA would make the decisions on funding. So then the RTA would take that money and provide it to Destination Des Moines or somebody else. With the new director, Mark, who is here, we've made the arrangement that $0 go to the RTA of our funds unless that's the recommendation of the Lodging Tax Committee and it's approved by the council. So instead of providing them 100% and letting them distribute it how they please, now 100% stays with the Lodging Tax Committee. They make recommendations, that's forwarded to you. You make those decisions. So we are like Michael said, it's more transparent where the council actually makes the decisions on where those funds go.
So we make the decision to spend currently with the change. We make the decision, the council decides where we want to put our money relative to the promotion of our city.
That's
and
correct.
Events within our city.
That's correct. So now every time we have applications for funding, those would go to the committee first. The committee would make those recommendations and then bring them to the council. There will not be a time when someone gets lodging tax funds and the council doesn't know about it, as there was in the past.
Just to follow up to Councilmember Harris's comments, I agree with you, JC. I think that a doubleheader. So,
I had a heart attack. Really, just like, I'm just saying, and I work my pill.
But I think, and this isn't the time for the conversation, but there needs to be a look at, especially with what's going on in the city, how we're going to market the city and how we're going to best utilize those funds. And so I would suggest that when we get down to, future items that we probably put that on, or maybe somebody puts that on. All right, thank you.
Yeah. So
I'm going to take Councilmember Harris and Councilmember Oxner's comments, and then I'm going to take a vote.
This is in no way meant to try to marginalize Destination Des Moines or any other group. It's just that my thing, and I've said it for years, is that there needs to be a 360 marketing effort. The push and pull between different organizations, is not the greatest. And so this is, to my mind, it's not a question of trying to shortchange any individual group. It's just to have a, strategy. That's it.
Thank you, Councilmember Harris. Councilmember Oxner. Oh, I thought you signaled me. My apologies. With that, all those in favor of item 3, the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee, please raise your right hand. Item 3 passes 7-0. You have the floor for item 4. Councilmember Harris.
Oh, I think I gassed down enough. Let's vote.
Okay. With no further, just go ahead, Councilmember Nutting.
I move to ratify and approve the agreement with Destination Des Moines to waive the facility rental fees for holding the 2022 summer events and specifying the in-kind services and facilities that were provided by the city.
First and second, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes 7-0. That concludes what was our consent agenda. All right, we'll move on to new business. This is the time for the sole purpose of proposing new business items that have not previously been before the council for discussion on a future agenda. This is not a time for questions about old business. Council members can submit questions or seek updates on previously discussed business to the city manager at any time. Do any council members have new business they would like to propose? Seeing none. Oh, we've got Councilmember Pennington.
Relative to the conversation we just had, I think that at some point we need to introduce, or we need to look at the marketing of the city, and in particular the funds that are spent on that, where they come from, and how they're spent.
I think we've got enough consensus and something we've been heading towards.
Yeah, I think that what probably what we anticipate relative to that is sort of bringing that along with marina redevelopment activities to the council over the next, say, number of weeks. And so a lot of the marketing and branding and advertising, the fast ferry service, all of that will contribute to what that looks like. And so I'd rather not do it out of context, if that's all right, but do it in the context of the marina redevelopment process.
That makes sense, and so I'll withdraw my request.
Great. All right, let's move on to board and committee reports, and I'm going to start with Councilmember Steinmetz.
Thank you. I attended the Public Safety and Emergency Management meeting today. It was a good meeting. We had several informational things going on. I'm going to let Deputy Mayor Buxton tell us about it because she's the chair of the meeting. Otherwise, summer gone so fast. There've been a lot of events, you know, the Waterland Parade, just an enormous amount of events that I took part in, but they're not real formal committee, or things that I can update you on, but I think it's been a very successful summer, in trying to get the community back together again, and I think that's great. So I'm very, very pleased with the events, and some of that was on the, we addressed on the consent agenda. And so I do want to just, make one clear about the consent agenda, because I'm not hearing that you're getting exactly the point that I'm trying to make, which is it's a transparency point. Yes, there are certainly things that I individually would like to deal with, but I think doing things in the meeting when they're a separate agenda item makes it much more transparent what the city's doing. And I also think that's good PR for the city, because you get a chance to find out, we're spending 1.5 million on the fish to clear up a culvert. We end up with problems like it's on city property that we inherited from the county, and that makes it more expensive for us to have to move a water main. Those are things that people who are interested in the city and how it runs need to know about. And so I think that having a broader agenda and a smaller consent agenda allows us to get to that in approximately the same time frame as we did tonight. And so I appreciated the information, believe me, and I don't want to sound like I'm being a naysayer about it, because I'm really not. I just would like to see the agenda shift a little bit to include consent items that we can really just deal with quickly, like the vouchers, and even the acceptance of the cars and things like that, and to have those other things individually, just have a little short presentations like we had tonight. Went very well, and I appreciate that information. So, but I think that is a transparency point as much as anything else. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Steinmetz. Moving on to Councilmember Oxiger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to mention that I attended several of the National Night Out events, and one of the things that impressed me is that, neighbors were getting out and meeting with each other, and they were, it's a community building process, and I don't think it's something that we should limit to, one night a year. There's a tremendous amount of power in, the citizens getting together and being able to illuminate and, discuss issues that pertain to them directly. So I want to encourage that we do look at methods that we can utilize to encourage more community involvement. The other thing is something that you said, Mr. Mayor, that it was kind of ironic. I was having the conversation with the police chief shortly before the meeting, is about doing something about the aftermarket exhaust systems that are causing such a problem in Redondo. This is something that, of course, needs to take place at the state level, and I think we would need to put it in our legislative proposal and talk to Anthony about dealing with this. But I will say that, I won't dig it out, but 25 years ago, when Redondo and Woodmont became part of the city, I led that. I was one of the leaders of that campaign. And this was an issue then, 25 years ago. We've been dealing with this for that long. And one of the driving forces for why we chose to become part of the city of Des Moines was because the policing ratio was, at that time, it was 680 to 1, which by far surpassed anything that any of the neighboring cities were doing. And so we were looking for that help. And at the time, I was the president of the Redondo Community Club. The very first correspondence I had once became part of the city was trying to deal with the noise and the racing and all those issues in Redondo. And 25 years is long enough. I think we really need to concentrate on this. I don't want to, beat up on the police at all. They've got their hands full. They've got a, extremely elongated city that they're trying to be everywhere at once and trying to, I appreciate what you're doing. But we do need some help, and I think as you said, Mr. Mayor, Idaho, for crying out loud, but, New York, California, Georgia, all these states have all said there is no benefit from these aftermarket exhaust systems. I will point out one thing. If you go into the city of Kent, one of the first things you see are signs that say no compression brakes. And it's not that compression brakes aren't actually a safety feature, but they are so noisy in the process that people have said we will forego the safety issue to cut down on that noise. Okay, here we won't stop the aftermarket exhaust systems they're nothing but noise. There's no safety aspect to them at all. You will have car enthusiasts that will say that it increases the performance of their vehicles. To what, go faster? Or to just irritate the heck out of people. So I hear the people from Redondo. I live in Redondo. It's a horrible mess, and I hope that we can definitely get this on the legislative agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Oxker. Moving on to Councilmember Nutting.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a few things more than I typically do, so I'll run through them really quickly. Been down to the farmer's market, been enjoying that. I think I've only missed one. It's Saturdays from 10 to 2 through September 24th. The Mount Rainier Booster Club has coordinated different teams from Mount Rainier, so please join them and help them. The donations go to their teams because they've been substantially cut through the school district, concerts in the park. Deputy Mayor Buxton and I were down there last night. They're Wednesdays until the 24th from 7 to 8:30, brought to you by the Des Moines Arts Commission and Washington Scuba Alliance. We've heard about the Waterland Weekend. I just want to thank all the volunteers, and if you are looking to volunteer, please reach out to Destination Des Moines. Tuesday, we've heard about the National Night Out. My wife and I and the girls were up at Midway Park, one of our favorite places to be on this night. We've hosted at our house several times and have chose over the last 5 years, 6 years to be up there. What a great event. It's an underserved community, most of them with food insecurity. It was great for me to be on the grill. We had about 175 people come through. We handed out 50 soccer balls that were donated to the event by the Sounders Rave Foundation. Shannon Kirchberg was up there and handed out a ton of emergency preparedness kits. A huge thank you goes out to the DMPD, Virginia Mason, Franciscan Health, King County Library, Des Moines Parks and Rec, Mount Rainier High School football team, and Mount Rainier High School Boosters Club. It was an awesome event, as Chief and everybody else had said. On August 7th at 3 p.m. in the Des Moines Beach Park, there will be Seattle Shakespeare Company brings to us Theater in the Park. We've heard that the pilot program for the Fast Ferry begins August 10th. Tickets are available now on the city's on the website, on the city's website, and I have a link on my Facebook page as well. Tuesday, August 16th from 3 to 6, my children, my daughters, are holding their annual Lemonade fundraiser event. They've been holding the fundraiser since 2014. They've raised $10,800 for local charities. This year they've chosen Shop with a Cop to donate the funds to. And if you're unable to attend, the link to donate is on my Facebook page, and their goal is $1,000, and they've already begun. They're just over $100 so far. And then finally, Sunday, August 28th from 2 to 4, the Mount Rainier High School Ram Fest on the marina floor. And it's typically been just for the football team in years past, and we're making it the whole Mount Rainier High School clubs and teams to interact with the community in a social mixer mingling event. The community is encouraged to join the event, meet the coaches and club leaders, and see what Mount Rainier High School is up to. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Nutty. Moving on to Councilmember Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank everybody who showed up to give their public comments tonight. Mr. Pettibones did say something interesting. We have physically, this is a small room compared to our surrounding cities. But the good news is that it only takes a few people to look like you've really packed the joint and make an impression. And it does make an impression on the city council when people show up. You can have 300 people doing their little likey things on Facebook, and it is nothing compared to having 10 people show up and speak with passion. You know, we used to have a public planning commission, and it is my most profound wish to bring that back. I know why it was canned, but that is the extra check where the public can weigh in before you get to things like this. Let's see here. I attended the Highline Forum, which I'm sure Deputy Mayor Buxton will mention, but they talked quite a bit about City of Burien, about their digital marketing, and the port is more than happy to provide these funds for things called Shop Local. They're doing it for Burien and for Ballard, and they look really cool, and yeah, it's something worth taking a look at. Let's see here. Regarding the muffler thing, my company actually did a website, I'm sorry to say, for one of these aftermarket muffler companies, and they are they are passionate about this stuff, and it will definitely take state. It'll take everything that Anthony has or whoever. You really are going to have to push that, because these people really like spending a couple of $1,000 on that stuff, and they will not take it lying down. That's why it hasn't changed, and we need to push back just as hard. Finally, I've been attending these meetings regarding the FAA reauthorization, and I get stares, as so often happens, because they're like, well, what new things would you like to see regarding the FAA? And I'm like, you know something? You haven't done any of the stuff you said you were going to do with the 2018 thing. So similar to the council's rules, if they would just do the things that they said they would do, life would be better. But the way forward is for us to simply get paid. The bottom line for a city like Des Moines is that we suffer financially simply by being next to the airport. And the way to think about it is more like Alaska, where the residents of Alaska get paid simply for the, giving the opportunity for a very large organization to make money at their expense. And that's really where the conversation always should have gone. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Harris. Moving on to Councilmember Pennington.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Attended the public safety meeting this evening. Deputy Mayor will fill you in on that. I just wanted to say that there's a lot of stuff that went on in the city over the last few weeks. Thank you to all of the folks that were involved with putting those events on and supporting putting those events on. Not only our organizations and individuals volunteering, but the city supporting of those events as well. You know, AJ, I was very passionate about the police department, but you know, that my passion is also reflective of the entire city. This is a pretty cool city, and the changes that have occurred over the last handful of years, and the inclusiveness, and everybody being able to work together and having a voice, and the removal of silos speaks greatly to the leadership of the city. It speaks greatly to all of our employees, and so thank you to the city manager, thank you to the directors, thank you to each and every employee, because it's really important. This group up here would accomplish absolutely nothing if it wasn't for every one of you out there as our city staff. So thank you for your passion, your commitment, and your ownership. That's it.
Deputy Mayor Buxton.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm going to change up my reports a little bit to try and consolidate information. I participated in about 33 meetings and engagements since our last meeting. Most of my colleagues at this dais were at a lot of those with me. Boards and committees, Public Safety, Human Services Advisory Committee, the Farmers Market Board, Highline Forum, South King Housing and Homelessness, Sound Cities Association, Regional Public Issues Committee, and meeting with staff and colleagues and having discussions. And we had discussions about homelessness and housing, transportation, public safety, behavioral health response, and targeted approaches in our city. Workforce training, community events, regional economic solutions, regional representative appointments, school board and superintendent introductions. I did that with the mayor, and discussing airport issues. I attended community events in the park, the market, Smoke on the Water, the parade, Waterland, National Night Out, several others. I thoroughly enjoyed my community this month so far, and their families. I put on my boots and gloves, rolled up my sleeves, laughed a lot, and I ate more. Highlights of all of this activity. Human Services is renewing $250,000 in grant awards for 2023 and 2024. In regard to public safety, the co-responder model for policing and behavioral health is gaining strength in our region and also gaining resource statewide. The legislature is going to be talking about funding that this upcoming session. I am, on another thing, I'm appreciating our new Highline School Superintendent, Ivan Duran, and looking forward to a good future and see what he brings to the table. I'm particularly impressed with Highline Schools, the Port and Highline College partnership, and continuing to develop workforce training in our community and workforce training options. I am greatly appreciating our park staff and their work with summer events and our marina staff. So thank you so much. And last but not least, a shout out to my darling Emily Alexander for assisting me in judging the car show on Waterland Sunday. So if anybody has any questions about anything I mentioned, feel free to write or call. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Buxton. Because you were everywhere all the time over the last several weeks, and I can vouch for that.
You giving you a run for your money, Mayor?
Oh, geez, man, I'm telling you, she beat me over the last 3 weeks, even though we try, I think, sometimes. Second thing I'll say is, Councilmember Steinmetz, I hear you, and I will commit to reviewing that when we set the agenda with that in mind. So I just want you to know. Pretty much, even Councilmember Nutting covered a lot of the stuff I had on my list, but I have to talk about the Waterland weekend. It was a fantastic weekend. Thousands of people showed up of our mixed diversity in our community. It was a beautiful thing, particularly the kids. It was amazing what got done considering coming back from COVID, but I have some special thanks. Thanks to the volunteers, thanks to Destination Des Moines, but Michael, particularly to your staff. The police were phenomenal. The public works were sensational. And I'm going to try to come up with adjectives as I come along here, and I hope I don't run out. The marina staff, was on the spot always, and we appreciate them, particularly Ashley, fantastic, Scott, you know, and the Parks and Recreation Department was there as well. And every one of them worked cohesively to ensure that we had this great event. And what happened is the community won. We overcame COVID. When I was in the parade and waving, people were just glad to be back to a form of normal. And it meant a lot to this community, more than ever. And for that, Michael, I thank you and your staff wholeheartedly. And I'm not going to even get into anything else of all the stuff I did. I'm going to talk about the next meeting. It's going to be August 25th at 6 p.m. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
I got like 6 of them. All right, all those in favor, say aye. All right, everybody have a nice evening and a safe weekend, and stay cool.